Federal authorities are trying to learn how and why an airliner managed to overshoot the Minneapolis airport by 150 miles. Were the pilots sidetracked by a heated conversation, or were they both sleeping?
Can you imagine? You pass the airport. You're still in the air before the pilots turn around. The plane on its way from San Diego to Minneapolis Wednesday night.
On Flight 188 from San Diego to Minneapolis, they turned around, landing safely more than an hour late. Countdown.
You can just kind of lull yourself back to sleep. It's happened. It's happened to me, I'll tell you. And I know a lot of other people it's happened to as well.
It's happened to you. Have you fallen asleep at the controls?
Well, I dozed off. I can't deny it. It was a long time ago, but I remember it happened. I remember when I woke up.
Wow.
That's when you realize that, well, you know what happened. But the other guy was awake, luckily.
Amazing. Just shedding new light. You know, a lot of people fly, including myself, and it's just kind of a shocking thought here. As you mentioned, NTSB.
Oh, it's very shocking.
It is shocking. They're scheduling this interview with the crew. You mentioned that cockpit voice recorder. That should begin to give us some of the details. But Rob Mark, an active pilot, 30-year veteran, thank you for talking.
You're most welcome.
What's up with that?
Taking cues from the flight crew. They weren't panicked, so they weren't, they didn't panic themselves. But based on what they know now, there were some folks that were aboard that plane that believe the pilot should be taken to the woodshed on this one.
What's up with that?
The pilots reportedly are... The pilots reportedly are saying that they were having some sort of a heated discussion. The NTSB and FAA looking into that. But do we know anything about how they discovered their error?
Going on, but by law, they're only required to have 30 minutes worth of these kinds of recordings available, and they run on a 30-minute loop. There are 2-hour solid-state units. This plane didn't have one.
Yeah, well, good thing there was an astute flight attendant who brought it to everybody's attention that, whoa, we are way, way off course, folks, so let's get back on it. Steve Brown, thank you.
During the last 30 minutes of the flight when the pilots had already turned around. Lynn Jacobs was one of the passengers actually on board that flight.
That's worth applause.
Tom Casey's a retired American Airlines pilot who is now a flight instructor. Tom, thanks for joining us. How is it possible that controllers on the ground, other pilots, even the flight attendant in the cabin would not be able to reach or contact the pilots?
Well, it's a mystery, isn't it? And we hope that the cockpit voice recorder would answer some of those questions. But it's not unusual for a flight crew to lose the frequency. For example, they were in Denver Center, and Denver Center has, let's say, 10 frequencies. As the plane makes its way west to east, they'll be handed off from frequency to frequency. And if you get the frequency wrong, you'll be out of radio frequency. And if you get the frequency wrong, you'll be out of radio contact. But then they have procedures to contact other airplanes to contact you.
Very technical, but if that's not unusual, then is it unusual to pass your destination by 150 miles? How could that happen?
Well, I frankly don't know. There's a situational awareness issue here, and we don't know why. But certainly, even if they're out of radio contact, there is a flight plan that should be monitored. The waypoints that they fly from point to point on their way to the descent point, which is typically 20 to 30 minutes prior to their arrival over their destination. So they missed all of that, and they missed their destination by 150 miles. It's a hard one to explain. I'm glad I'm not the chief pilot for this one.
Right, and you heard that passenger say she's just happy to be alive. Was there an immediate threat of danger with the passing of the
well, I mean,
no,
there's no threat of danger in this particular circumstance because evidently they had enough fuel. They overflew by, say 20 minutes roughly. But
that's in our DNA. The truth is, we also face more complex challenges than generations past.
10:02 p.m. The plane finally lands safely in Minneapolis, 1 hour and 14 minutes late.
This was a crazy little flight, and I think the NTSB will have a lot to say about this. They have the voice recorder, and they also have the flight data recorder. They have taken those out of the plane. They've taken them back to D.C. They will download all the data, and they'll know by tomorrow what actually happened in this cockpit.
John Roberts, CNN, New York.
Somebody's in trouble.
Right there.